Good morning to Keep the Faith with Pastor Frank. I know it's Monday morning and it's early, so just like always, I'm going to ask you, if you will, when you get online to give me the opportunity to greet you, say something, like the stream, share it. We're just going to talk this morning about when faith is tested and share just a little bit. We had good church services Sunday. I sure hope you had good services. It was great to get together. Our church is meeting in a movie theater, and it's a new experience for me. But I just really appreciate all the help that everybody's giving. And hopefully one of these days we'll be in our own building again. So good morning, Brother Lee. It's good to see you. Looks like you had a nice ride yesterday. Brother James, good morning. It's always good to see you online, brother. Really appreciate you. Brother Tony, it's good to see you online. Thanks for all your help. Sheila, it's good to see you online. Hope your puppy's doing better now. Tell Mom hi for me. Brother Lewis and Sister Gail, it's good to see you guys online this morning. Been praying for your mom and praying for y'all. Brother Russell, good to see you online. Really early this morning. Cheryl, it's good to see you. I did get your email. I just want you to know. I appreciate all of y'all as you get up early in the morning and share with me on this. So this morning we're just going to talk about when faith is tested, and I'm sure everyone can agree that our faith is tested quite often. And so the scripture portion we're going to use is found, it's actually 3 separate verses. I'm going to read them here. It says, "And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there." And that's in Genesis 12:10. "And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle." Genesis 13:7. It says, "Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan." Genesis 13:11. So the first thing that I want to say is just categorically, every time you experience difficulties doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of God's will or you've messed up. Anytime, in fact, a lot of times God may design those times for our benefit. So it says, "Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him." And that's in James 1:12. And good morning, Sister Liz. It's good to see you online this morning. Pray that God will just keep blessing you. Actually, testing is a time of refining and should result in maturity and growth. And I'll say this, sometimes we're never the same after tests that we go through. But our response to the test determines whether we live in victory or defeat. So I encourage everyone to plan on living in victory and also understand that your faith is going to be tested. Now, somehow, when I became a Christian, I felt like that just being a Christian meant that I would be able to avoid all of the problems and issues that I'd had before I became a Christian. And I found out that Christians actually went through more sometimes than unbelievers do. So this little devotion this morning breaks down into like three kind of test areas. First, there's the disaster test. In Genesis 12:10, it says, "And there was famine in the land, and the famine was grievous." So Abram had two alternatives. He could remain in the land and trust God to see him through that disaster, or he could journey to Egypt where there's pasture and plenty. So actually, he chose that course. Abram went down to Egypt. And, of course, rationality would dictate that would be the better plan. But Egypt actually means the house of slaves. And throughout Bible history, God's people really never fared well in Egypt. So Abram went down to sojourn there, and a couple of things happened that are worth mentioning. One, when questioned, Abram resorted to deception and half-truth. He tells his wife, "Say thou art my sister," and that's in Genesis 12:13. Sarai, his wife, was very beautiful. The lusting eyes of the Egyptian prince wanted her, and the compromise of Abraham there is an indication of the price the believer must pay for compromising with the world, quote unquote, Egypt. So, second thing is, Abram left the altar out of his life while in Egypt. So let's just say while he was in Egypt, he lived like the Egyptians did. There's no mention of the altar during the time he spent in Egypt. With the altar abandoned, sacrifice, worship, and recognition of God doesn't happen. But upon his return from Egypt, the first thing he did was to reestablish the altar. And you can find that story in Genesis 13:3-4. So for Abraham's recovery, he left Egypt. And the thing is that Egypt represents a world system that's never an ally or a friend to God and his people. Now, understand, spiritually speaking, the world system is never a friend to God's people. I don't know why, I guess we continue to try to make it a friend to God's people, but the truth is that we need to realize that we need to pay attention to the choices we make. So Abraham went to Bethel and the house of God, and he reestablished the altar. He got everything back on track. And so then the second test here, and this is something that's interesting, is the prosperity test. It says, "And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver and in gold. Lot also had flocks and herds and tents." And that's in Genesis 13:2-5. So prosperity is the opposite of adversity and disaster. So even so, it's likely that prosperity is a more severe test of faith and is more difficult to overcome. it's in this area that the sin of covetousness raises its ugly head. Now, a lot of times we don't realize that sometimes that our wealth or our great substance, it led to strife. So by the economic gauge, these two guys had it made. They had all the gold they needed. They had all the flocks they needed. They had everything silver they needed. They were wealthy people. Both of them had it made. But it tells that that strife got between them, and that led to a separation. Now, I've seen this happen a lot of times over the years, where two people or more than two people start together. They struggle during the fight. They're all together. They help each other out. They do everything. They make it to where everything, they're wealthy. They've got everything they need. And then that idea that I need more or want more kicks in, and then they begin to have an issue. And before long, they separate. Each one takes their part of the company or their part of whatever it is. They separate, and very good friends that walked through fire together all of a sudden don't even talk to each other anymore. So it's a test of your faith. So Abram doesn't want any strife between himself and Lot, and he says we're brothers, and so Abram says to Lot, selflessly. I mean, Abram really wanted to do the right thing here, but Lot chose and I'll talk about that in just a second. It's a choice test. So we have the disaster test or the adversity test. We have the prosperity test. Now we have the decision or choice test. So Lot chose all the plain of Jordan. So and the thing here is, over the years, each of us are going to have choices that we make. And a lot of those choices, a lot of those places we have to make choices, whether we recognize it or not, are engineered by God to see if we'll make godly choices or if we will forget about God and make choices that we feel like will benefit us. Now, you may say, well, why would that be bad? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that here Lot chose the easy, that seemed easy. He chose the way where there was plenty of grass for his flocks. There was a city there. There was all kind of stuff. And it looked like all Abram wound up was a bunch of rocks and mountains and stuff. So what was Lot's motivation? He just saw gain for himself and his people. He just said, hey, I choose this, and he saw, plenty of grass for his cattle, plenty of things, but he didn't see the loss of his family. What loneliness invades the heart of a man who has a barn full of cattle but no family. So his limited vision led to a tragic choice. Yeah. Abram was a godly influence on Lot. So number one, his choice led to separation from the godly influence of Abram. So it also led to alliance with the ungodliness of Sodom. But it says that the men of Sodom were wicked exceedingly. And so what I want to say about this is wrong choices are never without consequences. Lot is soon a victim of war. His family and goods are taken and plundered. Lot loses his cattle, his wealth, and most of his family in the overthrow of Sodom. So, in contrast, God tells Abram to lift up his eyes in every direction. And Abraham in the hills was more blessed by God than Lot in the plains. And Abram builds an altar at Hebron, while Lot never built an altar in Sodom. So it's like, to kind of wrap this up, it's our response to testing is pivotal. A wrong response may weaken or damage our life of faith. But a proper response can result in new strength, added blessings, and always remember that God has a purpose in your life. And his purpose is not to destroy you or defeat you. God's purpose is to prosper you and to lift you up, to help you grow and mature. So this morning, I just want to say, as you go through the day, take an opportunity to encourage someone around you. Someone may be going through adversity. Take a moment to encourage them and lift them up. There may be somebody that you haven't got to talk to in a while. Give them a call and make their day. Let them know you still love them and care about them. So this morning, I just want to share with you, our faith is going to be tested, but as long as we lean on Jesus, we're going to come through and everything's going to be fine. So look forward to the day when we see Jesus coming. I just want you to understand, I'm going to keep that up. Jesus is coming, and we need to be ready for when he gets here. God bless you. Keep the faith. I'll see you again in the morning at 6:30.